We are honored in our studio today to have Representative Lora Hubble from South Dakota, who is a conservative member of our great Republican Party. And she is here today to discuss with us a plan that she has made to run for the governorship of South Dakota. And Lora, why would you want to do that?
I have been asked why a good little girl like me wants to run for Republican governor. And I was under the assumption for several years that we have a conservative governor, or that we have a conservative Republican Party in South Dakota. After being in the legislature, I found out that's not necessarily true. In fact, after bringing very conservative after conservative bills and finding that they're all been killed by the executive branch, I decided something's wrong here. And then I started to research, especially what was the health care bill. It started out with the actually the Real ID bill that I was researching. They love the Real ID here in South Dakota, which I thought everybody else hates. In fact, in 2007, our legislature had a resolution that we wanted nothing to do with the Real ID Act. The next year, there was an executive bill. Now that's not even constitutional, an executive bill. But after a study of the issue, they didn't put the word Real ID in the Senate bill. They just had a study, and then they went through and they got passed all 18 aspects of Real ID the very next year. We are only one of 6 states that have done that.
So you're telling me that that a conservative issue of privacy, in this case,
that's right,
is something that a conservative government, a conservative administration didn't support?
No, they had a task force, which seems to kind of be the MO. If they don't like a bill or a resolution that has been passed, do a task force on it, and so they can kind of change it and pretend like it is the will of the people.
I see. And I'm guessing there might be some other issues that are pretty much the same deal?
My whole emphasis is basically the privacy issue. There's the databases in Real ID I just rail against. The database in Obamacare is horrific. And then the database in Common Core is my main problem. And when I saw that our state was actually advocating Common Core, not even pretending to be against it like they are with Obamacare, but when they're advocating Common Core with all of its databases on your children and my children, grandchildren, that's when I started to throw my hat in seriously and said, somebody's got to take this administration on.
So that was the last straw?
That was the last straw, yes.
Okay, and so what is the, in the issue of Common Core, it is more than just the issue of privacy, though.
It is. It's, but that's my main issue is the privacy issue. They have a 400-point. If you buy into Common Core, like we have, you buy in not only to the standards, but you buy into the testing. And they don't even call it testing. It's assessments, which is a little more wobblier than testing is. So to get that testing, you have to belong to a certain data bank. And they say we're only going to be getting aggregate data, which means just general data all kind of thrown together. That's not true. In the same contract, there is non-aggregate data also. And if you're a statistician, I've heard that you get 15 points of data. You can basically zero in onto a person. But then they also include that you have a a student ID number also, which a couple more clicks of the mouse, you can tell who that student is.
Okay, so database is reminding me a little bit about Obamacare as well.
It is.
And so this is all moving together, isn't it?
It is. And I didn't like the driver's license database in the Real ID. I don't like the database of Obamacare where they ask you, do you own guns? What's your mental status? You know, what's your religion? What's your bank account number? All these things is none of their business. And then they're asking kids, do your parents have alcohol in the house? Do they have guns in the house? Do they smoke? And then they're collecting that data. And data is only used for one reason, and that's either for profit, which means it's a commodity. So our state is getting rich on data commodities.
Wow.
And a lot of this data is being collected without the advice, or the consent, I should say, of the parents. These kids are getting surveys, which are real provocative. They're trying to find out how they feel on diversity, how they feel on getting along together. These kind of subjective thought and attitudes is what they're drilling after.
So you want government to be a lot less obtrusive than it is.
Absolutely, yes.
And is there other areas they could move into with this?
Well, I'm actually giving a speech tonight at the, and I'm going to be talking about the history of different nations that have done this. It's pretty scary, and it's almost like a repeat right here in America.
Yeah, and Lora makes a lot of sense, and she is running for a Republican on the Republican ticket to challenge Governor Dennis Dugard. I would urge you to find out more about Lora, and Lora, if you'll give us the information, we'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
For folks to find out some more information, and hopefully she'll come back and visit us again soon.